It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Yes, it's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. I think I can make it now. The pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is the rainbow I've been praying for. Yes, it's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Yes, it's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Look all around, nothing but blue sky. Look straight ahead, nothing but blue sky. Sky, blue skies. Oh yes, I can see clearly now. The rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Here is the rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Yes, it's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
Cheryl Renee, everybody. Thank you, Cheryl. A bright, sunshiny day here at Mile High Church. Whenever we hear from you, Mile High Band. Got a special guest speaker right here from Mile High Church, our Minister Emeritus, Dr. Roger Teel. Everybody is in the house. So wonderful to see each and every one of you this morning at this incredible spiritual community. Welcome everyone who's joining online. You know, it's so wonderful to know the incredible spiritual teaching that we are, but equally as important is this incredible spiritual community and spiritual family that we create here. I'm particularly grateful for Patrick Lidke today. Where are you, Patrick? You're out here somewhere. Where, Pat? Get over here. Come on. Since you're so close, come here. This is Pat. He's ushering. Watch out, he's a very dangerous-looking guy, but he's just one example. You know, it's one thing when you come to church for yourself. It's another when you come for yourself and for other people. And I know for over a decade, this guy Pat has been coming here and service in so many incredible ways. It's his last Sunday here in person for now. He's moving to Minnesota. Is it? I could say anything. You nod your head, but it's such an example of the space. The people that create, the ministers give messages, the musicians express so much, and then there's the Heart of Mile High, which is this incredible volunteer team, the people that make this place, that create this space to uplift us, to help us remember the truth of who we are. And even in your travels, my friend, I hope you remember the truth of who you are. We're so grateful for you and all of our incredible volunteers here. You wanted to save the tears to the end of the service, but we're going to start with them, and it might be a two-hanky service today, everybody. So with that, stay up here as we recite our vision and mission statements coming up on the screen. If you want to say it along with me, it goes like this. Our vision, oneness revealed, a world of love, peace, and abundance for all. And our mission, to serve as a spiritual beacon for personal empowerment and global enlightenment. So with that, let's all just take a deep breath as we come here for ourselves and for one another to remember the divine in ourselves, in all peoples, in all life.
presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. In this sacred moment, we open our hearts and minds to the presence of the living Spirit. Right here, right now, in this place. We open to the power and the wisdom, the creativity and love that created all things, that is alive in all things right now, still creating through us. And it's the beginning of Holy Week right now. Turn our attention to the life of Jesus, the difference he made in this planet, with his commitment, with his connection to Spirit. We align ourselves with seekers of truth all over this planet, however they might worship. We know that we all seek closer connection with the truth of who we are. And I give thanks for our Mile High community right here, for the ways that we serve in the world, the ways that we reach out, for the lighthouse that we are. We send our prayers right now to people all over this planet. We're seeking home, seeking shelter. May they know that God is right where they are. So I give thanks right now for all the hands and hearts who bring this service together this morning, all of our volunteers. And I give thanks for Dr. Teel for his message this morning, as he leans into this story of commitment, the power that we feel when we are connected. For this I give great thanks. So it is. Amen.
Why should I feel discouraged? And why do the shadows Why should my heart be lonely and long for heaven and home when Jesus is my portion? A constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches over me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. I sing because I'm happy, and I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. I sing because I'm happy, and I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches. I know He watches. I know He watches me. Thank you.
Our first reading this morning is from Mahatma Gandhi. I do dimly perceive that while everything around me is ever changing, ever dying, there is underlying all that change a living power that is changeless, that holds all together, that creates, dissolves, and recreates. That informing power or spirit is God. And since nothing else I see merely through the senses can or will persist, God alone is. And from the Gospel of Matthew, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust consume and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourself treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also.
To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to ride the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for the heavenly cause. And I know if I only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this. That one man, scorned and covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star. Thank you so much. Thank you. The band.
Cheryl Renee, you're so awesome. It's always a joy to be here with you.
Thank you,
And
Dr.
are we
Teel.
not blessed by this band? They are the best. Rob Lowe, Dr. Kent Rautenstrauss, Mike Marlier, Bijou Barbosa. Always a pleasure to hang out with you guys. You are the best. You know, sometimes, good morning, by the way. For as many years as I've done this, I sometimes forget things. And I have to knock the rust off. And I've come out here without my mic. So I'm just going to go this way unless they bring that other to me, and we'll see how it goes. Ask and I shall receive.
You know, Captain America has a shield. Dr. Roger comes with this microphone, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give him a help to put that on.
I'm not going to live this down for a long time. I'm going to hear about, and I don't need to hear about it from you. But I know I will hear about it from the staff, from our sound engineer extraordinaire, Nathan Marshall, and from a lot of other folks. Well, love and blessings to you all. Great to see so many faces, Jonathan. It's good to see all you guys. Congratulations. We have mile hires everywhere, Patrick, and so you'll find some up there. So great to be here. Easter coming up next week. Always the services here are extraordinary. Erica and I look forward to them. Hope you'll fill this place, bring friends, and just celebrate the profound message in this. By the way, I'm told that we have some representatives from Job's Daughters here. Are you over there? Raise your hands if... Hey, welcome. Love and blessings. Love and blessings. And hey, just a word for the meditation and prayer retreat that I'll be leading from Mile High. It'll be in Colorado Springs, but it's in association with Mile High. We've been doing this for about 12 years, and we'd love to have you spend 4 days with us. It's a time to get quiet and search your heart for the next level of the dreams that want to seize you. Perhaps it's a time where you're getting quiet so that you can move beyond things that have been going on for you. Maybe it's a time of just discovering a renewal of your spiritual practices as we go through many, many different forms of meditation to find the one that works for each person. I'd love to have you with us, April 21 through 24. Now you need to act soon because we're right at the deadline. So Karen Thomas is directing the bookstore now, in addition to being our events director. She has material and information for you there, or you can go on the church's website and sign up that way. All right, continuing on in the beautiful energy that Dr. Michelle created in her two-part message on blooming, I bring you today a message entitled Staying True. staying true. You know, they say that that the ultimate function of a spiritual path is to comfort the troubled and trouble the comfortable. Today is Palm Sunday that acknowledges a momentous time in the ministry of Jesus. And I tell you, no other account in the story of all that he brought forth troubles me more profoundly and productively as does the events of that time. It assaults complacency, heartlessness, and unconscious living. Now, we hold here that Jesus was the greatest master metaphysician. And people have explored his message from various levels, but we seek to go deep so that we might accept his gift of discerning our spiritual birthright as expressions of the divine. And he came here simply but profoundly to awaken the consciousness of humanity to the immediacy of God, not a God later, not a God distant, but a God that is singing its song through all creation and at the same time transcending it, the oneness of the divine in which we all live, move, and have our being. He came here to teach and express unconditional love for all, no exceptions. And he came to help us understand the faith that moves mountains. And so we do delve into his depth message, the mystical side of his message, that we might understand ever more fully that he didn't come here to be the great exception, but to be the great example, showing us the possible human, the next level of human awakening. And through all our travails and struggles on this planet, it's all meant to move us to a greater compassion, a greater understanding, a greater consciousness, that we might indeed co-create the kingdom of heaven on earth as it is in the mind of God. So in 1988, a movie came out, and I didn't much like the movie, but there's a scene in it I liked, and it's the Last Temptation of Christ. And there's a scene in the movie where Jesus is hanging out with this particular guy, and the guy says to him, you know, I wish I knew what God wants me to do. And Jesus paused, but then looked at him and said, well, you're lucky. I know exactly what God wants me to do. And so let's set the stage of that account. So for several years, Jesus had been doing his ministry and spreading his light through the large region of Galilee. And then, for several months, he came into the holy city of Jerusalem, the municipal and spiritual center of his day. And there he healed and he taught for several months. Then following that, he went to a wilderness small town named Ephraim for 3 months of spiritual preparation, because he knew the challenges that loomed ahead for him. And after that period of time, then he made what has been called the Great Decision. The decision that he would return again to Jerusalem, despite what he had told the disciples would be his demise, and despite the fact that he was an even greater threat to the various power structures in that day and in that place. But you see, his popularity was off the charts, especially since he had just raised Lazarus from the dead. And yes, he was such a threat. But nonetheless, 6 days before the Feast of the Passover, he rode in on a borrowed donkey into Jerusalem, receiving a celebrity's welcome of that day, which was the people laying palm fronds on the road in front as he rode in. And they were shouting, Hosanna! Which in today's parlance probably was, yo, dude, you're good. Yay, welcome, or something like that. Those very same people who would in a few short days be yelling, crucify him. Nevertheless, he came in to Jerusalem. And a few days later, he held an early Passover dinner, which has been called the Last Supper. And following that, he led the disciples to the Garden of Gethsemane. He knew he was right on the verge. He was on the precipice. He was troubled. He needed to pray. And so while the disciples mostly slept, he went through his process. And at one point, it's recorded that he said, "Father, let this cup pass from me." It's like that part we all experience, the fears, the foreboding. Can I do this? It all came up for him. He said, hey, couldn't we do this a different way? You're the all-powerful one, I'm game for us doing this a whole different way. Then he said, however, nevertheless, not as I will, but as thy will. Not my will, but thy will be done. And then shortly after, he was arrested there in the garden, and the sham trial proceeded. But that's what I really want us to focus on, is his sense that the outcomes weren't as important as today's topic. Staying true. Staying true. And so, it troubles me. That story troubles me deeply and in a very important way. And I invite you to kind of be troubled by it and challenged by that very experience. Among all of the abilities and talents and goals we seek to master, I wonder if we are mastering the high art of staying true. Staying true. A gentleman in the mid-1900s was a remarkable person. He was an educator, a minister, a philosopher, a dean at a college. He informed and mentored many of the civil rights leaders, and he was a bona fide mystic. And I want to show you his picture. His name is Howard Thurman, and his material feeds me a lot. I read him constantly, especially his book that his late daughter put together called For the Inward Journey. And it's just rich and powerful material. And he passed, by the way, in the early 80s. But he wrote something that I especially love. It's a little article, it's about 3 or 4 paragraphs long, called Keep Fresh Before Me, the Moments of My High Resolve. And I've excerpted just a little bit of the last paragraph. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that in fair weather and foul, in good times or in tempests, in days when the darkness and the foe are nameless or familiar, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. And I even skinny that down as what I carry and remember. Keep fresh before me my moments of high resolve, that I may not forget that to which my life is committed. That's staying true. And I challenge myself, am I clear about that to which my life is committed? Am I clear about that? And I ask you, are you clear about that to which your precious and powerful life is committed? Good to ponder that. Very, very rich to ponder. So a minister and a priest and a rabbit go into a bar and go to the bartender, and the minister said, I want a shot of whiskey. Make it a double. And the priest said, I'll have a glass of your finest red wine. And the bartender turned to the rabbit and said, well, what in the world are you wanting? And the rabbit says, no, I don't want anything. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm only here because of autocorrect. You see, rabbit, rabbi. No. Now, the purpose of that profound story is to say to you that you are not here by accident. You are here by divine decree. You are here by divine decree. You have unique qualities. You are a once-in-a-universe person. And I pray you won't take yourself lightly. It's not about egotism, but it's seriously inquiring, what am I about? What did the divine bring me into expression, to reveal, to share? What is that? What have I to give? We hear often the phrase, we've been given the gift of life. I think there's a bit of truth in that, but I also see it differently. I believe that we've been entrusted with the gift of life. And there's a greater degree of calling and responsibility in that. We're not just here to amass what we can and eliminate what we don't want. We're here to discover something deeper and fulfill what I feel like is a sacred trust that vibrates at the center of our being. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Now, I want to say really quickly here that when I talk about staying true, I am not trying to tell us that we have to be perfect in every way. It's not about perfection. It's about finding our way back on course when we veer. You know, ocean liners, boats, as well as airplanes, they never go a straight line from where they start to their destination and beyond. They're always veering and coming back. The boat tacks. It goes off course and then tacks back and continues that. But it maintains the general thrust and trajectory of where its purpose wants to take it. And I think that's what we're about. And we're just as beautiful and just as whole and just as spiritual when we veer off a little bit, and especially so when we realize it and we steer back. It's a three-part formula I'd like you to remember, that our path is about veering, steering, and adhering. It's like we're going to veer. We're going to have our weak moments. Our fears will get the better of us from time to time. We're going to have those moments. The only thing life says is that it's not saying you're ugly, terrible, and we're not to be punished. It says just wake up to that and then steer back. And know that probably because that's how you grow, as you steer back, you're going to understand that life principle even more. And when you veer, so actually our veering is a deepening. Our veering and returning and then adhering is just the way we continue the trajectory into our spiritual awakening and into all that life wants to express through us. So it's not about a perfectionism, but it is about staying alert and looking at ourselves in the mirror from time to time and say, am I staying true? Am I staying true? Keep fresh before me my moments of high resolve. There are three aspects of this that I think are really calling for our exploration. The first is staying true with principles, staying true to principles that we come to understand. Now, we are blessed here in this teaching because one of its major thrusts is to educate all of us in spiritual principles and life principles. That's why our classes are at the hallmark of what we do. And I especially encourage you to get into Barry's class on New Eyes in the Bible because it's so perfect for this season and for what we're about. But we teach all these classes so that we can be fully aware of what a whole lot of humanity hasn't the foggiest idea about. And that is the principles at the heart of life. Anytime you discover a principle, it opens up realms of power for you. Just like the principle of electromagnetism and electricity was around in caveman days, but they didn't know it, so they couldn't use it. Now we're awakening to spiritual principles we can live our lives by, life principles as well. But you see, information is not transformation. What we've got to do is not only know those principles, but live them, stay true to those principles. What are the principles I'm talking about? There's a whole array of them, but I would say, for instance, oneness. That we're all part of the one life of the Spirit, the infinite love and intelligence, and that our job is to see the sacred in all people and all of creation. It's the principle of unconditional love as the very essence of God that can show up in us as compassion, kindness, inclusion. It's the principle of the creative nature of awareness, of consciousness, that thoughts do become things, that it is done unto us as we believe. The inner is becoming the outer constantly, and that we can veer back on course through the power of prayer. when our believing in the world transcends our believing in truth, we can veer back to an even stronger faith through the power of prayer. It's the principle that I'm fully responsible for the judgments and the evaluations, the belief systems, the interpretations that I form around people and around situations. And that I need to be accountable for that. It's about honesty, integrity, those principles, spiritual service. And then there's the principle of spiritual abundance. That while there may be certain pockets of limited resources on our planet, there's no limitation in God. And abundant ideas and transformational opportunities are available because we live in the divine. And so this is an abundance universe. But our own personal prosperity will be to the degree that we stay true to that. And we also stay true to the energy flows in life. That's how a life builds itself up and reveals more abundance. It's through the giving and the receiving, the law of circulation. That's going on in your body and your breathing and your heart. It's going on in nature as plants take in CO2 and give off oxygen. Everywhere in our world, we see life imparting of itself, reaping and receiving a harvest and giving more and receiving more. And we're a part of that. And so if we want to manifest abundance, we've got to stay true to that. And for all of my own course correcting and veering in my life, there's an area that I'm kind of proud that I've stayed true to, although it hasn't always been easy. And that's my giving and my tithing. I started in 1975, and I have never stopped. And it wasn't always easy because at times the appearances of not enough would loom large. But that was an opportunity to get back on course and remember, life can flow through me. Good can come to me, but I got to keep the flow, stay in the flow. And that has prospered me over the years in so many ways. Principles. Staying true to principles. What principles are your true north? What are your true north principles? Here's a key. And I think it's so powerful. I'm putting it up on the screen too. At the end of every principle is a promise. At the end of every principle you stay true to, there's a promise. And I could have said it in a number of ways, but I boiled it down to two things. The promise is highest good and authentic power. No matter what of these principles you want to look at, staying true to them brings forth those gifts, highest good and authentic power. Staying true. When we were with the Dalai Lama the third time in our synthesis dialogues with other social and spiritual leaders, he told a story that I've always remembered. He told about a monk, a Tibetan monk, a very elderly monk who had been captured by the Chinese and had been sent to a Chinese concentration camp, a gulag. And he'd been there for several decades, and finally they let him go. He was into his early 90s. And he was reunited with His Holiness. And as they reconnected with great affection, he said to His Holiness, I faced many times of danger during my imprisonment. And His Holiness assumed he was talking about maybe beatings and deprivation of food or the like. And the monk said to His Holiness, no. So many times I was in danger of losing my compassion for the Chinese. His greatest danger was he might not stay true to compassion no matter what. That's always stayed with me. Always stayed with me. When I was an associate minister here, I was involved in a committee on education at our headquarters out in LA. And we were looking at ways we could improve our educational efforts in all of these life principles. And there was a guy on the committee. He was one of what I called the old guard. He was a longtime seasoned minister, and he was just a pain in my heart. And because he was always a naysayer. We'd try to come up with these creative things, and he'd always say, no, you can't do that, you can't do that. And he was also in league with a bunch of other seasoned, tenured ministers, and it just seemed like they're constantly putting on the brakes for us who wanted to move things forward. And And so I was out for another meeting, and I'd arrived very early. My flight got me there early, and I thought, well, I'm going to put my briefcase down in the conference room and then go check in with some of my buddies here. That Dan was not safe on the streets of my mind. But I stood there, and I saw him, and I thought, because this happens within almost all of us, something said, you're better than this. This isn't what you're about. This judgment is a reflection of you, not him. What are you going to do about that? It's time to course correct, steer back, and really commit again. So I went and I put my briefcase down right beside him and sat in the chair right beside him, and he was shocked. And there was a few moments of awkward silence. And then finally, I'd remembered I'd seen his wife, his lovely wife, and his 2 daughters. And I said, Dan, you've got a wonderful wife and daughters. What's going on with them? And he lit up and he talked about his wife and his daughter who was in college and the daughter soon to graduate from high school. And he was he got pictures out. We didn't have the phones back then, so he got his pictures out and showed me. And I said, yeah, you know what? I've been recently married, and I've adopted my wife's 2 sons, and I love them like my own. And so we shared that. We started connecting. And then I said, Dan, sometimes it feels like you're just always putting the brakes on in this thing. It's like you don't want us to grow this thing, and I'd love to understand it better. And he said, Roger, Ernest Holmes changed my life. As an African-American man, he reconnected me with my self-worth. And he helped me claim a ministry that I didn't think I was up to. I don't want his teachings of my beloved man that I knew and walked with. I don't want them diluted. And I said, wow, Dan, I didn't get to walk with Ernest, but his teachings transformed my life as a teenager. I said, I don't want them diluted either. I think that what we're about is, what new methods can we employ to get these teachings out? What better educational methods? We talked a little about that, and he said, I think I understand. And he softened in that meeting and in others. And then beyond that, we started connecting and seeing each other at conferences and other meetings, and we formed this friendship. And I remember Erica and I going out to dinner with he and his wife and chatting. It was a lovely thing. And something really warm, because we participated in a mutual healing. We both got on course again. I wept when I heard he passed, and I still revere that guy. And I still understand that my healing was strengthening, experiencing how I veered and getting back, staying true to the principles, that he is my brother and we can connect. Staying true to principles. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, please. Secondly, it's about staying true to purposes. Our purposes in life to support life, support one another. Our purpose that is unique. I believe there's a unique dream afoot in every one of us. Every one of us. Doesn't matter what the past has been. We can go to our hearts. We can tap into that dream. We can reveal the next chapter or the next dimension of the dream that wants to have our way. But so many times there's so many voices that pummel us with shoulds. You should do this. You should be about this. You should. We need to listen more to the musts within our heart. What we must do, or we won't feel fully expressed in this lifetime. And to ask, what's my highest purpose in any given moment? Are my choices in alignment with that highest purpose for me? Remember reading about a guy who owned an auto repair shop, many, many loyal customers in his community. Then his only son got to be old enough to play soccer, and all the games were on Saturdays, and he was faced with the dilemma. That was his busiest day. But he did a lot of introspection, and he wrote a letter to all his clientele that he had in his database saying, my son's in soccer, and my purpose is to be the best dad I can be to him. And so I'm not going to be opening for the spring and summer on Saturdays. And I've attached a list of other reputable businesses that I know will take good care of you. And I hope we can do business downstream. Well, the upshot of it in the article was that his business didn't decline at all. He was besieged by people saying, yay, go for it. We'll work our schedule around. Nobody's going to take care of us but that. And congratulations on staying true to your purpose. It could have been so easy to take an expedient route. But look at how he might have ripped himself off. I think anytime we aren't staying true, we eventually experience that we ripped ourselves off. Keep fresh before me. Keep fresh, my moments of high resolve. Finally, it's also about staying true to presence, to our presence in the world. Understanding that that's one of our greatest responsibilities. How am I showing up? How am I behaving? And is it in alignment with, does it stay true to my principles and my purposes? And am I finding a way to be a beneficial presence? Is the way I'm showing up in life congruent with what I hold to be the highest and best in me and in life itself? Am I staying true? In 2002, Erica and I and our oldest son, Justin, were coming back from a family reunion in the Seattle area. Our youngest son was at a camp. And so we had arrived early on the day of our departure, and it felt important to get back to Denver because the next day we had a very early flight, and it was our anniversary. And Erica and I were going on a very special trip we'd saved and planned for a long time. It was overseas. And so we got to the airport, and it was going to be on a jumbo jet. I know. And the flight was really overbooked. I mean, it was significantly overbooked. And they were doing that a lot back in that day, it seemed. And then we found out that most of the other flights back to Denver that day were also overbooked. And there were a lot of people very angry. And they were lined up to this lady and this guy behind the counter at the gate, and they were just giving them what for. I mean, as I stood in line waiting to talk to them, all of a sudden I realized how toxic and hurtful this is, that people's own inconvenience is more important than the hearts of these people. And I began to feel sad about it. I mean, I initially felt irritated that, oh my gosh, we got to get out. But something in me said, I'm not going to participate in that. And so I got up there finally, and before I even said anything else, I said, I'm sorry. I want to apologize for what you're experiencing here, because you didn't do this. And what's been going on here and what you've had to take is, in my mind, unacceptable. And I just bless you, and my heart is with you, and hang in there. And then I said, any way you can get us to Denver or find a way at some point, let me know. And we went and we sat down. And by the way, as I was sharing that with the lady, I saw some wetness in her eyes because I think she'd had it up to here. So we sat down. About 25 minutes later, I hear our name being called. So I went up to the counter, and she said, I found a way to get you back to Denver. I said, oh, really? She said, but here's the deal. You're going to have to fly first class on this flight. I said, oh, really? I said, all three of us? She said, yeah, that opened up. And it's my pleasure to put you there. I said, thank you. She said, no, thank you. So we got on there. It was early in the morning. We had a lovely breakfast. My teenage son simply reclined in the nice cushy seats, pulled his hat over his eyes, and he slept through first class the whole darn time. Now, when we stay true to how we're showing up, it doesn't mean that it always garners us first class. But you know what it means is that we're stronger. We're more ensconced in a consciousness that's of quality. And the promises of highest good and authentic power are still afoot for us. So how do we show up? And are we willing to take responsibility for that? And experience the wonders of what happens when we stay true. Or even if we get upset and we veer, to acknowledge this is a part of my path and my growth. And I'm going to, with self-compassion, I'm going to steer back. I'm going to take a new stand. I'm going to adhere to this. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. So in this thing of staying true, few of us will be asked to lay down our lives. as did Jesus, as have many of our servicemen and women, first responders, frontline people, and such. We're not asked to lay down our lives, but we do have an opportunity to lift up our lives. To lift up our lives into the richness of our being, into the growth and expansion that's available, into that highest good and that authentic power that awaits every one of us. Ponder that this week and beyond. You just might discover the power within you is greater than anything you'll ever face. And you just might also discover a life truly worth living. Let's have a prayer together. I love to sit and pray with you as we now still ourselves and sense the presence of the living Spirit, birthless, deathless, changeless Spirit. That omnipresent divine life, called by many names, sensed in nearly every heart. And the light and the power of life itself at the center of you and me. As it says in the Bible, draw nigh unto the Spirit, and the Spirit will draw nigh unto thee. And so we do draw nigh unto that life source within us, that depth within us. And this day, may we just sense that the all-creative life has planted a seed at the center. A unique seed of life expression that will no doubt even transcend this brief lifetime here. Meant and designed to go from glory to glory. Greater and greater light and love. Sensing this high purpose uniquely expressing in each of us, in your heart right now. May we just see the power of staying true to it. Or returning to it when the demands and the fears of life pull us a bit off course. We tack on back and are the stronger for it. May we give thanks this day for the wonder-working power of God's love and light at the center of each of us. Affirming and knowing that our good and our growth is unfolding in beautiful ways, most especially as we cooperate with and stay aligned to this power for good, this love, in us and in all. We dedicate ourselves anew this day to walking the higher way, whatever that might be, to forgiving ourselves when we veer off and getting back on course, continuing the trajectory into our spiritual magnificence. So this day, no matter what you're facing in life, I affirm and know that the glory and the power of God is at work in and as you. And I affirm for us all wholeness of mind, body, emotions, and experience, unfolding in highest good and authentic power. Such that the obstacles any of us face, we shall say, as did the great teacher, move mountain, get thee to another place, and it shall be moved. And nothing shall ultimately be impossible to any one of us. So embracing this and our hearts trued up to the power of the divine at work in us, we say, thank you, Spirit. We let this be so with great gratitude and walk on, knowing all is well. And so we let it be and become, and so it is. Amen.
It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know
Thank you, Cheryl. We both had our share of mic karma today. Yeah. It all comes back to us. Ushers, if you'll take your place, it's a beautiful, joyous time where we find delight in the principle of unfolding abundance, that as we give, we create a cycle of energy flow that returns to us and blesses us, and that you can't outgive God. And how good to know that is so. So I bless you as you have a work of heart here, as you choose to bless this wonderful spiritual community, this great, great place. And I know that the blessings return to you. So as you hold that gift or tithe in your hand, and by the way, let me pause here and say there are many different ways to give. You've seen some of them on the screen. The baskets will be passed. There are containers in the lobby. Choose your highest and best way for your act of love. So as we hold this gift, we declare, divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. And so it is.
Ooh, yeah. Ah, yeah. Yeah. When I wake up in the morning and the sunlight hurts my eyes, and something without warning bears heavy on my mind, then I look at you, and the world is alright with me. Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be, come on, you can clap, a lovely day. When the day that lies ahead of you seems impossible to face, and someone else instead of you always seems to know the way, then I look at you, and the world is alright with me. Yeah, just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day. Ladies and gentlemen, be sure. Yeah, just one look at you, and the world is alright with me. Yeah, just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely It's gonna be a lovely day. It's gonna be a lovely day. Oh yeah, a lovely day.
Bijou Barbosa on bass.
Cheryl Renee, that's what I'm talking about right there. That's what I'm talking about. How about the Mile High All-Stars back there? What do you think? Oh my goodness. How do they do it? That's what you're wondering. So if you're here for the first time, welcome. It's like this all the time. These people are nuts. So, so welcome. I hope that you'll come back many times. We're open next Sunday, by the way, so please join us. And if prayer calls you this morning, if you'd like to be supported in prayer, our practitioners are coming forward right now, and they'll be glad to pray with you right after our service ends. Over to you, buddy.
Thanks, Barry. Our Healing Light service is in the Vote at 5 p.m., just a beautiful time, an hour of contemplation and healing. And it's Easter weekend, as was mentioned, and it begins Friday night with one of the most powerful services we do that you lead for us each year. Barry, will you tell us about our Good Friday service?
Yeah, this is one of my favorites, Good Friday evening service, where we really dig into the story of Jesus in his time in Jerusalem moving forward this story, we're familiar with it, and it's nice to just drop into the very heart of it. So I welcome you here on Friday evening at 7 o'clock.
Great music, too.
Yep. Easter Sunday, of course, here next Sunday, Dr. Rogers' meditation retreat. Don't we feel good when he speaks with us and prays with us and bring that? And just imagine getting to be in that space for 4 days. So grateful for all that you do for us, Dr. Roger. We have a youthful, incredible minister. Her name is Reverend Michelle Scavetta here. And, when you get your ministerial license, they give you like a provisional one for like 2 years in which to say, like, are you sure you want to do this? And then you have what's called an ordination panel. You pass that, and then you have a big ceremony, and you're a minister for life. Well, Michelle here just had hers, and she passed, and we just want to acknowledge her for that incredible feat, and are so grateful for all that you do and all that we get to benefit from your yes to the spiritual call. So,
congratulations.
take us home, Dr. Roger.
Michelle, thank you for all the work you've done for so many years with our teens. You've touched so many lives for good, so many lives. And now your ministry blossoms into new territory. Congratulations. So proud of you. Yeah, so proud of you. Let's stand for the benediction and the peace song. So we go forth on the path of truth, staying true to that which shall abide us and grow us and bless us, this moment and every moment, now and always, and so it is. Amen.